On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered to the Allies. Victory in Europe was declared. 2 days later, the War Department announced a point system called the Adjusted Service Rating Score, or ASRS. Its purpose was to determine which soldiers were eligible to be repatriated to the United States for discharge from military service. Operation Magic Carpet would repatriate those millions of American military personnel. The WSA, or the War Shipping Administration, was charged with the responsibility for ensuring efficient movement of all war material and troops across the ocean. By VE Day, the WSA, using nearly anything that could float, scrounged up 546 vessels to use for the homeward bound troops. Some soldiers were immediately repatriated, others would have to wait months for transport. The Navy was excluded from the initial European airlift. It was preparing for a likely invasion of the Japanese home islands. The war in the Pacific had first priority for ships and aircraft. The task of bringing the troops home from the European front would become the responsibility of the Army, Coast Guard, and Merchant Marine. 3 million service members were stationed in Europe, Africa, and the Mediterranean on VE Day. In late June 1945, the first homeward-bound ships left Europe.
Aboard are almost 15,000 happy GIs, most of them men of the 8th Air Force, jamming every square inch of deck space for a look at the USA.
Everyone had expected the war in the Pacific to last well into 1946, but the Japanese surrendered 3 months after hostilities in Europe concluded. President Truman announced on August 14, 1945, that Japan had surrendered. Officially, World War II ended September 2nd, 1945. But there were nearly 8 million service members from every branch of service scattered across 4 continents. Nobody had anticipated bringing troops back home from the Pacific Theater in 1945. The WSA was in the middle of an already massive repatriation effort from the European theater. The authorities were caught flat-footed. When the Japanese surrendered and combat phase of the war was over, the Navy was then able to add its tremendous fleet of vessels to the repatriating operation. The Navy began converting all available vessels to transport duty. Cruisers, battleships, hospital ships, and even LSTs, landing ship tanks, were packed full of men being transported back home. By October 1945, over 700 ships of all shapes, sizes, and nationalities were involved. Operation Magic Carpet lasted roughly 14 months, and during that period of time, U.S. servicemen were returned at an astonishing rate, averaging 435,000 troops per month. A peak was reached in December 1945 when over 700,000 personnel were repatriated from the Pacific Theater alone. Battleships such as the Washington, West Virginia, and Maryland, and aircraft carriers such as the Enterprise, Saratoga, and the newly commissioned at Lake Champlain were diverted for use in Operation Magic Carpet. Saratoga brought home more troops than any other individual warship. she carried a total of 29,204 troops home. 500,000 American soldiers had married European women. 29 specially commissioned ships transported those war brides to their new homes in America. The Pacific portion of Operation Magic Carpet, though, involved extra layers of complication. The sheer vastness of the Pacific theater and the POW camps within it had to be dealt with. By war's end, there were over 27,000 American POWs in the Pacific. They were scattered in Japanese camps for years, and they had to be located. The Navy sent out aerial reconnaissance to locate them. Once liberated from those Japanese camps, they were transported home. Many of them, though, suffered from malnutrition and illness. Operation Magic Carpet was not exclusively a one-way flow of traffic. The Allied forces repatriated German, Italian, and Japanese POWs to their home countries. Over 500,000 POWs were returned to Europe through the Magic Carpet operation. As daunting and complex as Operation Magic Carpet was, it was completed relatively quickly. The WSA had repatriated over 1.4 million servicemen from the European theater by September 1945. By April 1946, nearly 3.5 million more were repatriated, essentially ending the European phase of the operation. Between October 1945 and April 1946, over 3 million American military personnel were repatriated from the Pacific theater. The last of the troops would arrive home in September 1946, bringing an end to Operation Magic Carpet, the largest mass movement of humanity ever attempted or accomplished.